Hello, and welcome to AI for Future panel discussion. I'm Sharon Matthew, CEO and founder of AI Technops. And this is a special panel. We got influencers across the globe, literally, from New York to Europe and from the UK. This session will be hosted by DLS founder and director Imtiaz Adam, data science specialist. It's an exciting panel. We got Nicholas from Berlin AI and Irene from New York. Thank you. This is going to be really exciting to see what this discussion is all about. We're going to discuss about future and see how we can bring innovations of tomorrow today. So welcome, Imtiaz. Over to you.
Great. Thanks. I'm in. Thank you. So Sharon, it's a pleasure to be here. And we've got an excellent lineup here with Irene from SaugaTalks, who's based in New York or Connecticut in the US. And we also have Nicholas Borsotto who runs AIIOT at Berlin. So we can really have the international dimension here. And really looking forward to this discussion.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be focusing on digital transformation and AI on the edge, how it's going to transform customer experience, how it's going to transform everything, etc. going forwards, how it's going to change your life and your business. So let's maybe get going, and I'll let Irene give a bit more information about herself, and then Nicholas as well.
Sure. Hello, everyone. So my name is Irene Lyakovetsky, and I'm joining from cloudy Connecticut on the east coast of the United States today. My accent is Russian, so to get this out of the way, if anyone wondering, I'm representing, yes, the USA in this panel. Very excited to be here. It's good to be joining the Great Northern AI Summit, because we have a great panel for you today. We will be talking about future of AI, but we will start with where the outlook of AI today and where it will tend to get in the 2021 and beyond. And I'm so privileged to be joined by Imtiaz and Nicholas Borsotto here, because they are practitioners, they're strategists, they're gurus, they're influencers. And I'm here to really sparkle up the discussion, starting with Industry 4.0, industrial revolution that changed human existence back then, and now we're facing completely different landscape. Nicholas, if you would like to introduce yourself, we'll get to our topic very soon.
Thank you very much, Irene. Pleasure to see you all. My name is Nicholas Borsotto, as already mentioned. I am connecting all the way from Berlin. I am an economist, which is a very exciting thing to be when talking about technology. And I'm super excited to be sharing this stage with Imtiaz and Irene. So back to you so we can start this beautiful conversation.
Beautiful. Imtiaz, can you enlighten us maybe on your stand of the state of AI today? And we'll quickly get to the exciting perspective in the future, please.
Well, thank you. The first thing I'd like to make as an observation, as this is being hosted from Manchester, is that this is the region north of the UK, and the regions outside of Manchester, adjacent to Manchester, is where the first industrial revolution, the industrial revolution itself, actually started, with the spinning jenny in around 1765 or approximately around that time. And now we're going to be moving into the fourth industrial revolution, and I'm sure Nicholas will have some comments in terms of what's happening in Germany there and how that could translate back here to Manchester and Leeds, Midlands and other parts of the UK, and indeed around the world. In terms of the state of AI, though, we've been in a situation where it's been very much driven by big data and growing rapidly through social media, mobile, internet, etc., driving that capability, machine learning and deep learning, and basically transforming customer experiences, personalization, Amazon, Google, Facebook, etc., medical imaging with healthcare, with deep convolutional neural networks, etc. All these great breakthroughs that have been happening. But now we're going to be moving, going forwards, into AI coming out of these remote cloud servers, into the devices all around us, into your mobile, into smart cameras, into sensors, etc. But in your personal life, in your home, but also in your office life and in your work life and industry. And we're all having to work from home in many cases. Or not all, but many of us, because of the COVID-19 situation, which is in itself accelerating digital transformation. And maybe I'll let Nicholas pick up a bit from there.
Yeah. So something that I find especially interesting about the time that we're living right now is that a lot of the investments, which if we bring back less than a year ago, were seen as exciting or nice to have. I like to call them pink elephants. So things that industry was very interested in investing because somebody told them to. Now, a lot of those investments in digitalization, offering digital products, of reaching to suppliers and customers across the digital spectrum from to start, even before we're talking about applying AI technology or algorithms to improve whatever you're doing, what before was nice to have and just a footnote in a board meeting now is essential. Now, when people try and it doesn't work, they cannot just go back and say like, well, we tried. They have to keep trying until it works. And I think that we will be seeing some very, very interesting developments when it comes to technology, especially in Germany. Regarding this, Germany is very proud of their hidden champions, so they call it. So export powerhouses that might not be known overseas, despite being exporters. And I believe that we're going to get hidden technology champions as well, not only on developing technology, but also learning how to apply it, how to create an environment where AI is an integral part of the development, production, and distribution of value. So I'm very, very excited about this.
Absolutely, Imtiaz. I would like you to speculate a little bit further on AI, how essential it is for us in our daily life now. We're using so many apps. We're relying on algorithms everywhere in our daily lives and our work lives. Can you please comment on where 5G is gonna take us and where IoT and all these devices around us will start communicating with us, with each other, with other devices, what this future is gonna look like?
Thank you, Irene. And that's a really important point, because right now, AI can seem a bit abstract to the average person. It's sitting in a remote cloud server, and therefore it's something that's sitting in a back end where all the data resides. When we go to this world of IoT and edge computing going forward as 5G scales, then the important thing about 5G is not just the speed and reduced latency, but also the fact that it allows a dramatic increase in device connectivity. So Statista have a forecast that by 2025, there'll be 75 billion or more internet-connected devices. That is an average of 9 per person on the planet. That's huge. The huge amount of data that are going to get generated will necessitate AI in the form of machine learning and deep learning to make sense of that data and personalize, whether it's personalizing experiences. Imagine someone who's on the go, walking around a shopping mall or the high street, dynamically interacting with them real time. Whether it's healthcare, remote healthcare, remote robotic surgery. There was the surgeon in China a year ago using 5G, 3,000 kilometers away, successfully completed brain surgery. So autonomous systems, etc., also will need the connectivity of 5G and machine-to-machine communication. But this is going to be a whole new world of new opportunities and faster change that we've ever had before. We are going to have, over the next few years, change that maybe is going to encapsulate what happened since the Industrial Revolution itself, as big as that coming over the next 3 to 5 years. Huge new opportunities that will come through, huge new use cases, and things that we can't even imagine today.
Absolutely, and we all realize how COVID, fortunately, unfortunately, accelerated digital transformation. So there are no more options for businesses to take digital path or not to take digital path. No business should remain outside of digital realm, right? They will fail in the shortest time if they're not going to transform. So, Nicholas, question to you, from very practical industry applications, where do you see the hurdles? Where do you see, with all great opportunities right in front of us, where do you see adoption hurdles?
So I think, first of all, I find very interesting that we speak completely different languages, right? When we're talking on the factory floor, or we're talking the boardroom, or when we're talking down to startups or technology providers, they don't communicate. I like to, and even when they do, we realize that the question is not very much how to develop new technology, but how to adapt technology that we already have to the challenges exactly as they're facing. So very much how to apply technologies which are exciting for data scientists to be in the workflow of somebody that works, say, in the car industry or in the metal part industry or smelting. So there are incredibly complicated problems. And there's 2 companies that I always like to mention here from Berlin. One of them is ZK Systems, and the other one is Gestalt Robotics. And ZK Systems, for example, they do machine-to-machine communication. which is something that I really like. And it's very much surrounding the idea of prevention and maintenance, understanding your machines better, understanding how they can improve. And when well done, it can also create a better relationship with suppliers, where you can buy slightly different machines because you understand your own process and your own people better. A system that is a clear conundrum when selling AI to large corporate, because you want to create a bespoke solution for them at the same time that you don't want to change your core product, right? Startups feel like I just want to sell thousands of units of the same thing, when very, very often we have to adapt to a situation that is already in place. So maybe the biggest challenge is really not about creating new algorithms, is learning how to adapt both sides. So from the technology providers to spend more time on the factory floor to realize how to actually make their products usable. And from the factory floor in the boardrooms, how can we change some of our processes? How can we change some of our culture to be able to take full advantage of the products who are already out there in the market? Not we're having to reinvent the wheel, just learning how to use what's already out there.
Beautiful, with all this exciting future with technologies here, first of all. So Imtiaz, can you please comment on how practitioners and industry developers and executives and all the decision makers, how can they avoid AI winter? Will be facing next AI winter, you think?
I think I'll break it down into a few points. First of all, I don't believe that we're going to have another AI winter. We may have an AGI winter, because maybe some people got carried away as deep learning started to scale and have its successes, and say that we're right on the verge of achieving artificial general intelligence, which for those out there who don't know, right now what we have is narrow AI, the ability of AI to do a specific task, in some cases better than a highly trained human can, but what it can't do is multitask in the way that a human can. And so in actual fact, we may find that we're not quite there with AGI. In fact, we will find that at this moment in time. However, we are going to need machine learning and deep learning for all that data that's going to get generated. IDC say that by 2025, 175 zettabytes, which is an exponential increase from where we are today. So whilst IBM say that 90% of data in human history was created in the last 2 years, that's a drop in the ocean compared to the amount of data we're going to generate from the AIoT going forwards. So machine learning and deep learning will be needed going forwards, and that's why we won't have a AI winter as such, leaving aside AGI, which may take longer. Coming back to the point that yourself and Nicholas were talking about before, though, I do think the algorithms will need some degree of changing, because the point that you're coming back to your question about coming into the real world, as AI moves away from the server, the remote cloud service, and onto the devices, we're going to see growth in things like federated learning with differential privacy, where you can have decentralized collaborative learning occurring between devices. And that's going to help get around some of the privacy and data issues around healthcare, banking, and insurance as examples. We're also probably going to see a lot of research going on to make deep learning work with smaller or streamlined data sets compared to what we have right now, so that you can get learning on the fly. You get new techniques like neurosymbolic AI, which is a fusion between symbolic and logical AI, with deep learning being experimented by the big tech majors, and other techniques such as neuroevolutionary approaches and robotics and things. So it's quite an exciting time. And that's the thing. It's supply and demand. Like, as Nicholas is an economist, you'll understand. When we go back 5, 6 years ago, even 3 years ago, the part driving AI really was the internet and the social media giants, right? And all the AI could work in the cloud. They've got massive amounts of data. They can label it. They can make sense of it. But now, as we go into healthcare, as we go into the factory, as we go into retail, as we go into people's houses, etc., as AI comes into these areas, into the operating room, etc., it needs that ability, and autonomous systems, it needs that ability to dynamically interact with the world around it. And I think we are going to see some exciting changes coming through. Transformers that we've talked about before, Irene, in terms of the technology underlying GPT-3, transformers are also now being applied to convolutional neural networks, computer vision, by Facebook Research and others, to dramatically streamline computer vision. And I mentioned neurosymbolic AI that Microsoft, Facebook, and Google and others are experimenting with to actually reduce the amount of training needed and get to try and give common sense to machines. So some very exciting things going on as well, and causality, etc. A lot of research going on into that in deep learning as well.
Perfect, perfect. Nicholas, question to you then. Okay, in the practical field world out there, how do you think we should close this leap between the big achievements that big tech is demonstrating right now, okay, and practitioners in the companies where strive to be an AI leading authority in their own industries, but again, have so many questions, so many unanswered questions. So what's your advice there?
Actually, that is a great question, Irene. That's a question that I really like. And I think that the first part that everybody has to understand is that there is space for everybody. So not everybody needs to be an Amazon or a Google to find ways to make AI create value into their own company, and also to learn how their own data and their own expertise can allow for better algorithms in the future. That's the first thing. The second thing is that AI is not something that you parachute inside of your company. It's not an idea that you can just throw out there and it will stick, doesn't matter what you do. A lot has to start first. So for mapping your capabilities, to understanding the type of data that you create and need, to even doing a data assessment to elaborate what are the feasibilities and what are the advantages that you have as a company that you're not using. There is employees education that you can work with. There's many good companies. Unfortunately, it's slipping my mind the one that I work normally in Berlin with, but the Data Science Retreat is a good example as well. Places that train people with non-data science background to go a bit more into this field. Doesn't mean that they will need to do the full algorithms by themselves. As everybody in the field knows, this is very much a sampling and learning field. We sample from everybody. We see what is out there and we try to adapt to our own. And then the final part is to engage. So don't let it for tomorrow. Don't wait until everything is perfect and the stars are aligned. Look for opportunities today where you can do this. If that means right now making the investment into understanding and improving your data collection and organization, that's very great. I know, for example, personally, that there are companies like Fligo that sell very high-level AI solutions, but because they know their clients don't have the data capabilities at the moment, they also sell warehouse and data lake solutions. So you have to see that if startups selling the top of the pyramid need to also sell the bottom, or let's say the middle part, is because a lot of companies which could get a lot of access, could get a lot of value from that top, they are skipping a major investment. So I think that's a very important, that's not to push you away from investing in AI, that is for clarifying how you can do it. And I think that if you follow those, basically those three criterias, you can very much get on your way to do it. And then as a final extra, which is always nice, engage with startups. Try to get some new thinking. They will get a lot of value from working with you, to being with you in the offices and the factory floors. And I'm 100% sure that you're going to get a lot of value from their way of seeing things, their technical capabilities, and new solutions. Large, medium-sized companies already make enough revenue to compare with sometimes a Series A year. So if you have that, you shouldn't be afraid. It's not too late. You're not doomed for disaster because you're not an AI company right now.
Thank you, thank you. And Imtiaz, same question to you. Where do you advise companies to start? Because again, it seems like AI algorithm everywhere, right? You can start modifying, optimizing your one business process and see where tech and your business will take you. At the same time, do you have any umbrella advice on, yes, if I'm looking at my transformative initiative in the company, in my team, where should I be looking at?
Well, indeed, I'm going to say the word KISS, and I'm not trying to copy Donald Trump at his conference where he's saying he won't kiss everyone. KISS, keep it simple and straightforward. And that would be my advice for those starting on the journey. Gartner have a statistic whereby they point out 87%, I believe, of machine learning projects are failing to make it to production. And I think the reasons can be various. One, that I think Nicholas was kind of alluding to this, which is that the data science and machine learning teams talk a completely different language from the business teams. They don't understand each other. And Gartner say that the unicorn doesn't exist, the person who knows both business and the algorithms. I mean, they never talk to me because I come from both backgrounds. But in any event, we need more people who can bridge that gap, who can play that role of making sure the data science and the engineering teams can actually understand the business teams and get them to speak the same language and understand what's the goal, what's the exact problem they're trying to solve. and what's the benefit for the company? Are they trying to reduce costs in some of the operating issues? Are they trying to reduce operational failures, for example, in a factory with unplanned outages? Are they trying to find synergies in the supply chain? Or are they trying to increase revenues in marketing and find more customers and increase engagement? Have a clear goal in terms of what you're trying to achieve. It's not some magic solution where you open a box and, you know, Skynet or iRobot's going to suddenly appear as if by magic. It's something where you have to have a clear goal. You need the teams to work closely together and understand each other. And you need to understand, coming to Nicholas's point. Sorry, I always call you Nick in our personal conversations, but Nicholas's point.
Imtiaz.
Thank you, obrigado. Of basically understanding what data you have and how it's captured and how it's usable. I think all these points are very important. They have to happen together. And also the need for cultural change that comes from the very top. Many legacy companies who are not technology companies view technology as a cost base and give it to the CTO, and then the CTO is already the bad person because maybe they're behind schedule or over budget and other things. You have to have buy-in from the very top, from the C level overall, saying, yeah, we want to back transformation to a data-driven company. And therefore, it needs a cultural push, not viewing it as pure alien territory. That in actual fact, this can bring genuine business benefits for the company.
If I might add one extra thing on top of what Imtiaz said, one of the points that he brought, which is very interesting, and if I can expand, is start small. Don't try to redo your business from the get-go. Like, focus on smaller challenges that you really understand. Because if you start with things like, I don't know where we're not selling, it is a fairly complicated issue to solve because it's a problem that you don't even truly understand why. But if you start asking the question, why are we having such a high churn during winter months? Why is it that our customers care people spend an hour in between calls every day? What is going on? Like, start with measurable things that you can solve and analyzing that data. And when I'm doing normally classes on data economics or data assessment, something that I always bring back is what I call basically like the 3 levels of working with data for AI. The first one is always using, the most basic one is using data to understand yourself better and your customers better. Even before you do any improvements in anything, it's a purely understanding, collecting information, gathering information. The second level is improving your processes and your products. And the final level, or the third level, is about creating brand new processes and brand new solutions based on the data that you collected, and even more, your ability to continuously collect and process data. And that sounds extremely simple, but if you manage to cross those steps first, you will see that adapting an AI tool will make it so much easier, because you will understand who you are from a data perspective. And that is something that is missing for a lot of companies that end up expending a lot of millions of euros into poor AI choices, let's say like this.
Beautiful. And to add to all this, you know, I've heard great expression that it's a cliche that data is the fuel, right? And when industry leaders say we are data-driven operations, data-driven company, I'm always asking myself, am I fuel-driven company? Do you want to be fuel-driven anything? I would pick purpose or goal or some task, right, you're trying to accomplish, and use technology to help you with it. So, gentlemen, this is enormously interesting for me. Hopefully, audience find this useful and of value. Let's finish our conversation with 3 key takeaways. Takeaways meaning that what can practitioners, developers, employees, decision makers, executives can take away from this session. Imtiaz, would you start?
So just adding on to the previous point, so when you start simple, if you're new to machine learning or AI, don't go straight into, for example, deep reinforcement learning that DeepMind did. Right? You could spend a year getting completely lost and not going anywhere quite easily. Start with, as Nicholas is saying, the simpler things, and indeed the simpler algorithms, so that you go through the process of testing your backend, your integration and everything, and something that's doable, that including from an engineering perspective, and then everybody gets on the same page and understands, and something that you've got a good chance of getting some kind of business value from, be it for the end customer or be it for internal operations perspective, so that everybody you can get internal buy-in thereafter. Go, yeah, we've seen this, now we want more, basically. I think coming back, the other takeaways really are going to be that I was talking about supply and demand, and so now the demand is coming for the types of AI that are going to work on devices, if you like, edge computing, etc. And that's why we're going to see much more of a push towards moderated learning, decentralized, differential privacy, etc. And more breakthroughs in the field of deep learning that are going to help simplify the process and give machines, the kind of capabilities that are areas of AI and deep learning that maybe we've struggled with a bit. I mean, because now we're going to, the edge means being closer to where the data is processed. It's going to mean that there's a demand for different techniques and algorithms, or adjustments to algorithms and techniques. And so the supply will come. And effectively, though, I think it's also important to note that we are going to go through very, very rapid change. AI doesn't exist in a vacuum. As 5G scales with its faster speeds, ultra low latency, and a massive increase in device capacity, so too we will find augmented reality and virtual reality technologies that struggle with 4G because the latency making people feel a bit sick are going to start working with 5G. That machine-to-machine communications will occur, and all kinds of new transformative opportunities will arise. I personally believe that, I don't have my glasses on, but we've pretty much gone as far as we're going to go with mobile. And over the next 2 to 3 years, the glasses, the augmented reality, 5G-enabled glasses that Facebook, Google, Apple, Microsoft, etc. will launch are really going to bring a whole new range of opportunities that are going to merge the physical and digital worlds together with AI at the heart of it. So really exciting changes that we can't even imagine right now.
Beautiful, Nicholas. Yep. Your closing takeaways, please. Yeah.
Yes. So as Imtiaz said, the buy-in starts at the very top, but even deeper than this, I think that the conversation about data, it's a company-wide conversation. This is not a conversation that gets stuck on the IT side or the tech side of the company. To truly do this properly, you really need to open that circle, and you have to talk to much more people to understand not only what you're not using in your company, but also which challenges could you be solving. So that's my second point. When looking at using data and using data science and later on using machine learning to solve issues, start with a list of a lot of issues. Start with a list of a lot of small things that would bring you value today. Learn to be patient and to have an appetite for smart failures. A smart failure is something that didn't work yet, but it gave you just enough to show you that something could work. And then the final part is, and that is an example actually that Imtiaz brought to my attention, be a bit more like BMW, because BMW won an AI award a couple of months ago, and immediately you see a car maker winning an AI award and you think, they're doing autonomous driving, which is not the case. They won an award by using AI in their development and their production process, using computer vision to make better decisions and better industry processes. That is important. You don't have to follow what everybody else is doing. If you know the challenge that you have and where you can add value, that is the investment that you should be doing. Don't go for the big buzzword, exciting thing. Go for what would actually help you today. And very, very important, as Imtiaz said, prepare you for the future, because you won't wait for anybody. We still have a chance, but do it while you can and not when you need, right? So those are my three.
I would return on investment now is increasingly important, right? Especially because of the challenging economic situation that the COVID tragedy has placed us into. And return on investment, be it a manufacturing company, a retailer, a bank, etc., startup, it's all going to be key for them. If we invest in a machine learning project, what's the likely return on investment? What's the payoff? And understanding that dynamic is going to be very important. And you look at healthcare, for example, and it was already strained before the COVID-19 outbreak came. Wherever we were in the world, healthcare systems were under huge challenge. And now, with COVID-19, even when hopefully, fingers crossed, we get over COVID-19, maybe if we're lucky, let's say earlier spring next year, maybe with a vaccine or more effective treatments, the scars in the healthcare system are going to stay for a long time. Though. The additional costs, the burdens, etc., the strains. And so we need to find ways where how AI and digital technology combined together can really help the healthcare system as well. And that's why these techniques like federated learning can have a big breakthrough there to get around the issues of data privacy, but allow machine learning to scale.
Beautiful, beautiful, gentlemen. So to our audience out there, please connect with us. Please talk to us. Imtiaz is very open. That's how I met Imtiaz. He's a huge global influencer on Twitter. If you don't know yet, connect with Imtiaz, connect with Nicholas, connect with me. Let's talk on LinkedIn, Twitter. I have my YouTube channel, SaugaTalks, where there is a discussion with Imtiaz we've done a couple months ago on all things AI. So again, we live in exciting times, and things are how we're going to take advantage of it on personal level, as a company, as a country, as a globe. So I am excited about what's ahead of us. I guess my friends over here are excited as well. So thank you.
Irene, one final point I would make as we're in enough. I actually grew up in Manchester, and I used to look at the industrial, the old industry that had gone, and as it fell away, and I always dreamed of how dirty it must have been to work in there. And what we hope with Industry 4.0 and AI is that we can also make a big impact on climate change in a way that we can still get GDP growth and employment growth, but find ways to make things cleaner with the AIIOT. So that's a key point I want to make as well.
Beautiful. Thank you. So Sharon, back to you. Thank you for having us. We had a good time. Hopefully our audience, yes, will engage, will send us chats, messages, connecting with us. We're happy to continue this conversation.
Absolutely, Irene. It was brilliant. Thank you, Nicholas, and thank you, Imtiaz. This is, by the way, recorded. It's on obviously public live stream, so this is going to get a lot of engagement. And thank you so much. It was really insightful to hear from all of you experts. You know, really powerful discussion, and I'm sure we're going to share it even further. So, thank you again once more, and we're going to move on to the next session. So, see you all later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.